we consider, and we thank the band as they go off stage, we consider that baptism in the water is not the end of our journey as Christians, but rather the beginning. A lot of people believe that this is the goal, the aim, after you get baptized you can relax, everything's fine afterwards. No, no way. I'm going to read you guys a text from the book of Daniel, chapter 6, from which I'll try and explain to you guys that in fact after you meet with God, you start facing the hardest challenges. You receive the greatest tests. Because as long as Jesus Christ, when he didn't get baptized, we don't know in what shape or form he met with the devil. But after Jesus got baptized, he met with the devil in a proper hard way. And tonight I'd like us to see what the greatest tests are that face us as soon as we step out of the baptism waters and we are true baptized Christians. Let's open up to Daniel chapter 6, starting with verse 16. Allow me to read a couple verses. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, "Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you." Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signet of his lords, that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. Now the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no musicians were brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice to Daniel. The king spoke, saying to Daniel, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" Then Daniel said to the king, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you." Now the king was exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up and out of the den. So Daniel was taken up from the den, and no injury whatsoever was found on him, because he believed in his God. And the king gave the command, and they brought those men who accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions. Them, their children, and their wives, and their children, and their wives. And the lions overpowered them, and broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den. Then King Darius wrote, "To all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions." Amen. Let's all sit back down. What an amazing sermon. What this king does, I've never heard, not even in Orthodox churches or in Pentecostal churches, what a declaration this king makes. And so today we think about him. All right, how did Daniel end up in the lions? How did it happen that the king with all the people around him to tell Daniel, roughly the age of 90, to go into a den of lions? How does a good man end up suffering? How does a man of God, a man who has peace in his soul, peace with people around him, peace with God, how can you end up in the lion's den? I understand that some people can end up at the pigs because they disobey. Do you guys remember the prodigal son? He didn't listen to what God told him, and said, "You know what, there's pigs for you. And you will eat with the pigs, and then you'll come back as you can, if you're going to want to come back. If not, you can carry on living with the pigs. It's fine by me." That's your choice. God doesn't obligate any one of us to make a specific choice, where we have free will to choose. And so we understand some people that if they don't obey, they end up living with the pigs. But how is it that people that obey, they end up with the lions? There's a difference, right? How is it that he ended up getting cancer? She ended up suffering so much in family, in society. How is he struck in this way? Because he's a good man, she's a good woman. And we don't understand it with the lions. We understand things with pigs easier, faster. You don't listen, you don't obey. God is very poetic, and in mysterious, wonderful ways he makes us listen to him. But with the lions, we can't wrap our mind around this problem. Daniel, the name Daniel means God is my judge. And do you know how he lived? He lived a life according to his name. He lived as if God was his judge. If God is my judge, and that's what my name means, that's how I'm going to live. I'll always fear God. I'll always fear that God is the one who judges me at the end. Or better said, I'm glad that God is the one that judges me at the end. And if we are Christians, right, if we call ourselves Christians, let's live as if we're Christians as well. If we praise ourselves with this name as Christians, let's live according to our names. If my name is Daniel and God is my judge, I'm going to live as if I know that God is my judge. So if we're Christians, let's live as followers of Christ. We have the sensation that after baptism everything gets easier. That's not true. The same way that we have that feeling that after as if 70 years would pass, spiritually speaking, for the devil to say, hey, do you know what, it's fine, this guy has Alzheimer's, he's forgotten everything, let's leave him alone. And we consider that he doesn't chase us as much anymore. You know, the devil's faster to kill someone young and destroy him, right? But not me, I'm old. What does the devil want to do with me? I'm 70, I've barely got any more life left. The temptations of old age, listen to me, are just as strong as the ones at our youth. Till the very last second, the devil wants to destroy you. Till you're 90, 95, 100, however long, till your final breath. Brother Tasnaski, as maybe only Brother Bumbrand suffered for Christ, a few days before he died, they caught him, like I said, a few days before he died, they caught him with a blade trying to cut his veins open. The devil wants to destroy you till the very last second. Daniel ended up in the den of lions when he was old. He was already old. He was respected in the king's court. What did the king want to do? Every king, right? Just like Mr. Johannes or whoever else on the staff, they feel like they need praise. They deserve praise, a bunch of praise. And so what happens? They increase the administrative power in order for as many people to praise him. And even though everyone praised the king in his kingdom, it says that he took 120 captains, and then they put 3 captains on top of those captains, out of which one of them was Daniel. So Daniel was one of the highest generals, captains in his court. And the king wanted to put Daniel above the other 3 in order for them to not be 3 but to have 1. The second highest in the kingdom. He wanted him to be Daniel. And they found this out. They found out the king's wish. And at that moment, everyone else in the king's court started pointing their eyes towards Daniel. 3 big tests. 3 big tests arise after you get baptized, after you end up in this water. 3 big tests that will test you your whole life, that you're going to have to answer accordingly, and we're going to have to answer right. Otherwise, this baptism doesn't matter at all, 0. And the first test that Daniel had to pass, and we have to pass as well, is the test of integrity. The test of integrity. If you read in the dictionary, integrity means honest, sincere, correct, incorruptible. That's what integrity means, right? Hopefully you guys, yeah? Let's go real quickly to verse 4. From time to time we're going to jump back into the text that we read. So, verse 4. So the governors and satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom. They tried to find skeletons in his cupboard, black spots in his folder. Every man has a weakness, right? Let's find it. It's impossible. There's no way we won't find a way to execute this guy, find something against him. But they could not find no charge or fault because he was faithful, nor was there any error or fault found in him. Right, what a great man. Right, verse 5. Then these men said, we shall not find any charge against this Daniel unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Now we're going to find something against his religion, something in the Old Testament, I don't know. Guys, listen, there will come a time when someone will scan you. People around you will scan you to see what they can find in your past that they can fault you with. And my great joy is to know that all of us here that have been scanned in church, after everyone puts the scanners on us, right, the telescopes, they look into our past, for them to say, I can't find any fault with him, with her. That's what integrity means. They found nothing wrong with us. They found nothing wrong with Daniel. Every man must have a weakness, but Daniel didn't have one. He didn't. And remember, he was taken slave from Egypt to Babylon at the age of around 14, 15. He was now 90. 3 kings have gone past him. This was the 4th king which he served. Think, this man had enough reasons to be angry with God, right? He saw how his parents were killed before his own eyes. He saw how, for example, they tried to change their culture and traditions and habits. This man, Daniel, had reasons to be angry with God, but he wasn't. He didn't do it. He had integrity. I've come to the conclusion that living amongst Romanians, right, if a security guard from here in the city, back when the factory was still working, the security guard would come to me and say, "Do you know, people in your church actually are stealing from a factory." People working there, right, everyone would have their bag that they would come to work with. And from the factory, right, whatever, they used to build furniture in the factory, right? And people would steal bits and scraps and bits of wood and put them in the bags and take it back home. And, you know, because it's different, right? Put some piece of wood on the fire, heat yourself up in the winter. And the security guard said, every time we control their bags, people from your church, we catch them stealing wood. And I go to the people from my church and I ask them, why did you steal, man? Why did you steal from them, from the factory? Right? They caught you, right? It's shameful. To which their answer is, and I ask them why they do it, to which they say, because they don't pay me enough anyway. Us Romanians, we know that, you know, we need to live, right, in some way, shape or form. And when we know that most of our bosses are selfish and people without God that try to take the skin off our backs and don't pay us enough and how much we deserve, and we believe that we can steal from them based on the principle that they're going to treat us badly. We're not stupid. We're going to treat them badly as well. Vice versa. Daniel had the opportunity to do this, and he didn't. He turned the cheek, no matter how bad those kings treated him, no matter how far away he was from his motherland. He had the opportunity to do something bad, but he didn't do it, to take revenge. Because that's what integrity means, what you do when no one's looking, when no one sees you. In front of people, he was incorruptible, correct, right, without flaw. But also in his relationship with God, everything, he was okay, he was good. But a lot of us, however, in our relationship with people, maybe we're right, but we're not okay in our relationship with God. A lot of us are not okay in relation with other people, and we're not okay in relation with God. But if you go and you look in verse 10, now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room with his windows open towards Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that he went down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as it was his custom. Since early days, it was his custom. It wasn't something new. He prayed every day to God. He had integrity with people and had integrity with God. His relationship with God was intact, was strong. One of my teachers, I always felt that he was the devil incarnate. When he would test us, he was our physics teacher. He would pass out the tests, and he would always walk out the room. Notice the devil, right? Notice the devil. He gives you a false sense of freedom. He would go out and would smoke or do whatever in the corridor and let us do the exam. And he always said the same thing. Hey, watch out because you have an exam. You have a physics exam right now. I'm going to go out on the corridors and, you know, I want to talk to some of my colleagues. I have something to tell the teacher from across the hall. I'm busy. You guys sit here and write. What he was saying, in fact, was this exam is not only just about physics, but also about your honesty. And if I'm going to want you guys to fail an exam, I would like you guys to fail the physics exam. Because good people can fail physics exams. That's not a big issue. But not a single good man could ever fail the honesty exam. That's why I'm going to step out a little bit on the hall, on the corridors. Not a single one of us failed the physics exam. As long as he was outside, all of us had at least a 5, at least a passing grade. None of us were honest though, but we passed this class. The exact exam that we weren't allowed to fail, we failed at. The one of honesty. You guys have a name. Those of you that read history, for example, know that one of the greatest people of America was a Southerner, General Lee. He was from the South. He was one of the great people of war, a specialist, a general, a specialist at war. And he went out in retirement. The moment when he became a hero in America, just as important as maybe Abraham Lincoln at the time, they went to that general, a insurance company, and said, "Hey, you're retired and you're broke. You guys are living very hard. You know, there's no pension, there's no nothing." He was living very, very hard financially. He said, and the insurance company comes to him and says, "Hey, you're a great name in America. We're an insurance company. We're going to pay you $50,000, which back then was an incredible sum of money, incredible amount of wealth. $50,000 we'll offer you, just to let us use your name as the name of our insurance company. Our insurance company, maybe we call it the Lee Insurance Company." To which he said the following thing. He said, "Is my name so important? I didn't even know." "Yes, it is." To which he says, "No, I cannot agree with letting you guys do what you want to do. Because if my name is so important, I cannot give it to you guys to use, because I don't know if you guys will be if you guys will have integrity with my name. And so I want to protect myself and my name if my name is so important as you claim it to be." Maybe you guys have been called already, or you've been called it for years now. Maybe people think you're Christians. But from today onwards, you guys are Christians baptized at an age of maturity. It's a big thing to be a Christian, a child of God's. Do not bring shame to your name. That's all I've wanted to tell you. The first test that Daniel had to pass was the following, the test of integrity. He left all his cupboards open. Search various testimonies about me. Search on my phone, on my computer, my laptop, my history. Find anything? No? Okay. That's what integrity means. For people to look into your cupboards and find no skeletons. The second test that you're going to need to pass and get a 10 on won't just be the test of integrity, but also the test of priorities. What priorities do you have in your life? Who is number one priority in your life? Let's go to verse 1. Verse 1 to 3. It pleased Darius the king to set over the kingdom 120 satraps, to be over the whole kingdom, and over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm. 2 Caesars. We have them as well. 2 kings. 2 worlds in which we live in. And the question, the simple one that arises is, who has priority in your life? The king of the world was friends with Daniel, right? Hey, I'm going to put you as second place, second highest in the kingdom, right? I'll make you governor above all. And we have the Caesar above, up in heaven, our God, and we have the Caesar here on earth. We have the life here on earth and the life up there. That starts from within. That starts from here in this as we live on earth. Who is number one priority in your lives? It was the second situation in which Daniel had to stand before the king, before the Caesar. When he was young, he had to deal with the oven of fire. Do you remember? The people from the oven of fire. When he was young, he had to do something for the king. For the king here on earth, to bow before him. When he was old, he ended up in the lion's den because he had to do something else. Or rather said, to not do something for the king up above in heaven. You're not going to kneel before him anymore. And Daniel said, hey, come on. Do you want to stick by the king here on earth and not the one in heaven? Listen to what the people said. So the governors, verse 7. All the governors of the kingdom, the administrators and satraps, the counselors and advisors have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree for whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Right, this man has one thing. Daniel has one skeleton in his cupboard. His priority is God. Let's break this priority. And do you know what they said? His priority is not the king here on earth. And they gathered up and they said to the king, King, listen, come on. Everyone for 30 days needs to worship you and you alone. Every man, if he wants to bow down to someone, should bow down to the king only. Right? What king does not want that? Oh, long live the king, right? Glorious king. And for no one to bow before a single god. And so Daniel had to say, hey, what priorities do I have in my life? Listen, king, let me tell you something. There had been 3 kings before you that came, went, and died, and went up. You're the 4th. But my king up in heaven, he's eternal. Life, our life, in fact, is nothing more than just a life between 2 lions. The lion from the seed of Judah, right? The Lion of Judah. And the devil who likes to roar like a lion, but he's not a lion, but he just likes to roar. And we are sat uncomfortably between 2 kingdoms, and we always have to pick what we prioritize in our life. And God wants to be the extreme priority in our life. If it's not me, says God, then nothing else. Either you pick me or nothing else. I don't care. It's practical for us to understand, because beyond what we see, let me try and explain this to you. In the last few years, right, I've had to deal, and the pastors of the church know this as well, we've prayed for a bunch of children with problems and disabilities. And I thought to myself, why are there so many kids with problems? It's as if there's more of them. It's as if illnesses are stronger nowadays. And we blame what we eat, our diets, or maybe because we give birth to them later on in life, after 30 years or so, when the chances of... Anyway, moving on. Why is it that we have that our children have so many problems, more than before? Why? Because we've made many gods out of them. We asked for kids. We've asked God to give us kids, fasted and prayed for them. And then all of a sudden we've started idolizing our own kids. We wanted to avoid our kids from any illnesses, from them hitting their heads on anything. We've cuddled them so much. And then we bring them to church when they're incredibly sick, almost close to deathly sick. When us as parents, we've tried everything. Is it not a type of God? We've made money a God for us as well. That's why we don't have it anymore, because God strikes in the God that you have. God hits you right in what He considers to be a priority in your life. And God said, what's your priority? Is it not me? Let me see what the priorities in your life are. Your career? Oh, let me leave you without one. Your money, your children, your family, your hobbies, your health. What is it that you care about most, dear friend? That you're putting it above me. And God strikes us there, in the very spot that we care about most. Because He's no longer the number one priority. We can find a bunch of excuses, right? And God says, hey, I don't care about everyone else. I care about you personally. I care about you. You guys aren't the world for me. You are my children. I'm going to behave more drastically with you, harsher, because I care for you. By the way, with regards to priority, let me tell you guys a funny story. Someone comes and sees a young man next to a chariot with both wheels broken in the back. He only had the wheels in the front. And the chariot completely filled up to the brim with wheat. And he sees the young man working, and the guy looked at him and said, let's go sit in the shade a little bit. And the kid says, hey, no, my father's going to get very angry with me if I don't come home with this wheat. To which the guy says, hey, let's just just take a 5-minute breather, man. I have cold water here in my bottle here. Come on, let me give you some water. They sit down by the shade and they drink the cold water, and then the guy looks at him and says, are you not hungry? Do you not want to go eat? Look, there's a restaurant over there. Let's go eat. My father's going to get angry with me. I'm not... Leave your dad aside for a second. Let's go have some lunch, man. They go eat, and then the child says, hey, I think I have to get going now. I have to get going now because my father's going to get angry with me. To which the guy says, why are you in such a rush to get your dad? Where's your dad? To which the child goes, my dad's stuck underneath the chariot. He's been stuck now for about 2 hours whilst we've been eating and drinking, and he's probably going to get very angry with me because I left. We fill our lives with a bunch of inflatable stupidities that can pop in a single second. And we have no more time, no more space for God, no more time for fellowship, for the church, no more time for anything else, for repentance. We don't have enough place for God in our lives. And so God comes and he says, oh, children, you don't have any time for me, let me give you time. And all of a sudden we wake up in a wheelchair, all of a sudden we wake up in a hospital bed, and then all of a sudden, I get so many letters from hospital beds saying, brother, we love listening to your sermons. Oh, I know you do. I look at my brothers, my sisters, they chase money. They chase money here in this church. A lot of people chase money, but they don't have it. They don't have any money, they're just chasing it. They're very good runners. And God will never give them money. Why? Because He should be the priority in their lives. When they came and they got baptized and they said, God, with you till the very end, you are the priority of my life. Everything that you'll say, everything that you'll put on second place in your life, it'll be fine. It'll be great. The moment you put God on second place in your life, He'll strike you in everything that you put on first place. That's all that I wanted to tell you guys tonight. And now, I want to write a book about unfinished things. I have almost like an OCD obsession with regards to unfinished things. When Menzel made a painting in 19-something, in 1905, Menzel painted the King Frederick the Great, surrounded by generals, and he started with his painting around from the sides, from the edges. Menzel, 1905, paints a painting, Frederick the Great, surrounded by generals. He paints the generals, right? He succeeds them. He makes them all of them look great, fantastic, right? He paints them properly, and then he dies before finishing the painting. And the king is just sketched out in his pencil, but he's not painted. I hope you guys understand the idea. We are so busy in life, and we have good ideas, right? We start off with good principles. We want God to be first and foremost in the life, but what happens? What happens? We start off with the edges. Let me get married first. Let me succeed in a career, and then we color around the painting on the sides. And God, the one who should be in the center, for which we started, for which we started making this whole painting. I repented and I turned my life towards Him and I gave everything up for Him. He's the one who doesn't get finished. And we die without finishing off the painting of our Christianity. And so we don't end up in heaven, we end up in hell, baptized being. Because we were unable to finish God, who was the center, the focus of the painting. And so start off with Him. Leave the edges to be last. This for me means priority. What Tom Landry, a football player in America, and Tom Landry was also a coach, American football, not European football. And he was asked, how could you be how are you able to be so successful for so many years in your career? To which Tom says, I had 3 priorities in all my life. 1, my first priority was God. 2nd was my family, and my 3rd priority was football. That is why and how I managed to have such a long career. If we arrange things in our life as so, God first, family second, and then thirdly, do whatever else you want. But guys, please understand what priorities number 1 and 2 must be. Otherwise, God's not going to be happy with you. A prophet of God says, everything in my hands are broken. We put, our hands in our pockets are broken. We try to gather things up, and as we try to stash them away in our bags, everything broken, it all spills away. That is what life is without God. Firstly, you're going to have to pass the test of integrity. Secondly, the test of priority. God first. Love your one and only God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with everything that you have, and then you love everyone else. Secondly. And the final test that we're going to speak about tonight is the test of trust. The king at one point says that Daniel trusted in God, in the God that you trust. They didn't pray, right? They didn't listen to the king. He carried on praying. King, I love your commands. Sometimes you pass by a very stupid law, decree, whatever, king. I don't care. I'm going to go back to my room. I'm going to pray to my God. And notice he kept the windows open and he prayed loudly, like Adrian Saposh. He did as much noise as possible. He wasn't trying to hide it. He didn't do it in secret, right? I ask you the question, could Daniel have prayed in his mind? Yeah, right? And can God not read our thoughts? Oh, okay, great. Could he not open the windows? Do you believe that God was beyond the window and also in his room, right? Why are you going to start opening up the windows for everyone else to hear you pray? Come on now, Daniel. He did everything just like before. Why? Because he trusted his God. You're going to get chucked in a lion's den. Oh, do I care? Let me tell you something. I believe that God is the one that can take care of me. Notice a man with good integrity, a man with good priorities, ends up in the lion's den. Right? What a situation. Even though number 1 and number 2 was perfect, number 3 wasn't. He ends up in the lion's den. Why? Because God sometimes allows us to get to the lion's den. A lot of people, when we get into hardships and troubles, people say, what are you doing in hospital? Because you're a Christian. Why did God allow this for you? Why? Because even the man that has and does not have perfect integrity, even the man that has good priorities and the man that does not, they can both end up in the lion's den one day. In depressions, in the hole, in sadness, in frustration, in problems, in worries, in pains. No matter how amazing your priorities were, or how dedicated you have been to God, how many tens you got on tests, Daniel isn't arguing or fighting with God. Imagine at the age of 90, for someone to chuck you in a moist, damp, humid hole. I hear many people say, I cannot live in this area. Why? Because, my back hurts. It's too cold. If you want to kill them, take the people that were born and raised in Constanța to the cold of Bihor. He sees a bunch of lions around him, unfed, him old, right? They were probably looking at him like a steak of like the best medium rare steak. And Daniel could have shouted to God and say, God, why? What am I doing here? I had amazing integrity and I had my priorities straight in my life. How did I end up here? No, Daniel doesn't fight with God. But Daniel says, hey, what's up, lions? I'm all right, man. How are you doing? Listen, I think tonight we're going to share this hole. We're sleeping together. I have the impression that the king won't take me out of here till the morning. We're roommates for tonight. And then he took the lions, right, and he said, you sit over there. I need a pillow. You're too big. Let me take a smaller lion, a chubbier one. To which the boss lion says, hey, I'm hungry. Don't worry, you're going to eat in the morning. So, the guys come in the morning, they're bigger, they're fatter. Right? I'm old anyway. Would you want to eat my bones? Right? They're going to have some meat, the guys that will be checked there in the morning. And he cuddles with the lions and he goes to bed. That's what's beautiful with God, to have trust in God. He was sleeping amongst the lions and the king couldn't sleep a wink that whole night in his bed. He didn't need any musicians, any food, anything. The whole night long, it was like on New Year's Eve. This guy was sleeping peacefully in the lion's den and the king couldn't sleep in his own bed. Worried, frustrated, and he was trying to see what Daniel was going to do, if he's going to live. And then whimpering and crying, right, he goes and says, Daniel, wake up, Daniel. Come on, lions. The king comes. Lions all them up top. When's our breakfast coming? Look, Daniel promised us that breakfast is coming. And the king looking at him, oh Daniel, did your God who you keep worshipping, did he manage to save you? Yes, said Daniel. Daniel could have shouted at him and said, yes, you didn't trust me, you didn't trust my God. No, Daniel didn't. Even in the lion's den, Daniel was humble. and polite and merciful, right? Oh, may you live forever, King. Don't rush me. Let me wake up. Yes, the God who I continually serve was able to save me because I trust in him. For he is God with me when I'm in the lion's den. He's God with me when I'm back in my room or at home. And now notice, King, I promise that these lions will eat. I promise that to them. Can you please feed them, please? The people that condemn me to you, those guys, not a single one of them have a straight back. They can't stand straight, right? They're just a bunch of yes men. Just bring them here with their children, their kids, right? Chubby as they were, I don't want to say too much, but notice what it means to have trust in God. And now, what follows up? When we hear that we have problems, should we start crying about it for everyone to notice that we are bankrupt, that we have cancer, there are problems in our family with my kids, with my wife, my child is smoking, he put on earrings, come on, let's cry about all our problems and tell them to everyone. Do you guys know what trust in God means? God, you gave me this child. I prayed for him and you sent me this child. I believe that if you gave me him, if you gave me this boy, this girl, you'll take care of him and he'll be turned back to you. He'll become a child of yours. God, I trust in you. God, I know, look, you've allowed me to be without bread, without a job, but I have trust in you that my kids tonight will not go to bed unfed. Trust in God means to know that we live in 2022, but he has the final word. I'm not afraid of any wars. I'm not afraid of any presidents. I don't believe in anything that they say on the news. And zero faith or trust in what our governors promised to give us. I've taken away my thoughts. I've said goodbye to my thoughts that these men will never be able to straighten up. Every day, as days go by, I'm more and more convinced that God is the only one that takes care of us. And he does it every day fantastically. I worked a lot today. One day I'm going to preach to you guys from Job. Job is amazing. I love that man. Job comes and says, God, other people in fact told him, look, your children died. And Job, after Job found out they died, one day, he lost his whole family, he lost his wife, he lost in a single day his money, or his wealth, his health as well. He lost his friends, because the guys that were there with him, they were three mindless people that, were making it worse for him. When he saw that he lost everything, Job 1, verse 10, I think I noted it here. Job 1, verse 20. Now listen to maybe the most beautiful words in the Bible. When Job saw that he lost everything, right, he got up and he ripped the clothes off his back. Verse 20. Then Job arose and rent his mantle, tore his clothes off, and shaved his head, and he fell down upon the ground and worshipped. After he shaved his beard, after he ripped his clothes off, he fell down to the ground and worshipped. When all your kids die one day, when you lose your wife and your friends and all your wealth and your health and everything that you have, he was scratching himself with bits of rock, of glass. He ripped the clothes off his back. He shaved his head. And he worshipped God. Job 1 verse 20. God, you give, you take away. I believe that at the end of the story, God, you'll set things straight and right. Till the end, Lord, till the very end, I believe that you're going to set things straight with me, with us, with our church. God will set things right at the very end. Because if we had integrity and there weren't any skeletons in our cupboards, if he was the priority in our lives, and if we put our faith and trust in him, God will work. God won't give up on us. When one of the airplanes from Panama Airlines had problems when landing, They asked for help from the control tower, and the control tower gave them a direction this way. You know, those degrees that they were given, this way, fly this way, you're going to fly this way, head that direction. Then they said, well, how are we going to go fly that way? There's a great pillar in the way. Now notice what the control tower responded back to them. You take heed to our instructions, because we're going to take care with the obstacles. You guys understand? Your job is to listen to us, said the control tower. That's what he said to the pilot. Our job is to deal with the obstacles in your way. Our job, all of us Christians here today, our job is to listen to the instructions, to these instructions over here. And God's job is to deal with the obstacles in our lives. If I'm going to prioritize this and take heed to what it says, He's going to take care of everything else that comes over me. And what was the result of what we read? The king said, my whole kingdom, my whole nation, may they all worship the one and true living God, the God of Daniel. An immigrant. I want to preach to the immigrants as well. What can I possibly do in England, Germany, in Italy, in Spain, in America? Hear me out. We're still immigrants in no matter how many British passports and British and double nationalities we make. Maybe your kids were born in wherever country you emigrated to. But I want you guys to know that you're still immigrants. And immigrants being, we can change the destiny of a people. If the king said everyone worship Daniel's king, would you not like it being said at your school, maybe? To be told to your kid, to your child, for everyone to say, look what a great God your child has. Everyone worship the God of your child, the God of your wife, the God of your church. We're going to need to put our trust more and more in God, that He can indeed work and do something and do a miracle. When we prayed for rain, do you guys remember how dry it was? 40 days, after 40 days, right? It was so dry that there were cracks in the ground. And we prayed on a Thursday, and we told God, God, it's time for you to give us rain, please. We had no more waters in our wells, our trees were dying, our plants were dying, and you guys prayed so hard that since then till now, the rain hasn't stopped. God sent a little bit of cold as well, and it caught you guys outside, because that's when we started heading out of church, because we didn't believe that our prayers will be listened to straight away. And we took you guys out to sea to convince yourselves with your own eyes. God listened to us instantly. We have a God that takes care of us. Let me tell you guys once again, because maybe you haven't understood. From this group of people that are getting baptized tonight, we have 2 people who have cancer. In this group of people getting baptized tonight, we have someone who said very clearly again and again, and we hear this many times. We hear people getting baptized and then their families saying, when you come back home, you're not welcome here anymore. Their families don't accept them anymore. I want you guys to feel encouraged and to tell you guys that if you guys have integrity, and if God is priority in your life and you put your faith and trust in Him, His job is to remove all the obstacles facing you. He will never allow your foot to strike a single rock. God will push aside every obstacle. You won't send God the Baptist before you to transform the valleys into no way. He Himself will come before you. He Himself will come before you and show you guys the path to walk on. What is interesting in Daniel is that night the angel came. The angel came into the lion's den, the angel of God, and closed the lions' mouths. I went to check in the original text if the word angel angeros comes up in the original. in Greek. The word is different there. The word in the original it says a divine apparition, and in our translation it says angel. But in fact we know that it's Christ. The appearance of Christ in the Old Testament appearance as an angel. When you're in the lion's den, Jesus is with you. You will never feel Christ as more alive, as stronger than when you are in the den, surrounded by lions. And that's when you'll feel Christ most. Let's all stand up. And let's all give thanks to our Lord. I'd like us to thank Him, to praise His name. I'd like us to pray for God to bless all these candidates getting baptized tonight. Once again, have integrity, have God as priority in your life, and have trust in Him. The Lord who you worship continually, you need to worship Him continually, not just on Sundays. If you have these three, God will close the lions' mouths, and God will send Christ in your lives, and everything will be fine, everything will be perfect. Let's all enter prayer. Amen.